Environmental Minister Fergus O'Dowd established on behalf of your government Éisce Éireann. So these are his words, they're not my words or Teachta Martin's words. He pointed out that it's become another cosseted quango with a bonus culture. That's what he said. Agus tá cumar an scéal seo an éis Taoiseach go bhfuil éisce faoi talú agus nach bhfuil cuasaí solar agus oscailte. And he says he simply could not believe, his words again, when he heard last January that bonuses were to be paid to Éisce Éireann staff, and he recommends that they be scrapped. He says that he made the point at every high-level meeting that disadvantaged groups should not suffer an unfair burden. He says he was ignored. He also says that he raised these issues with you. He says that the exemptions are not wide enough. He appeals to you to look again at the support services that are available. Now, these remarks, in my opinion, because they're not my remarks, this isn't the leader of Sinn Féin or of Sinn Féin Teachta Dála, can show the Ira and far a cor and Lee and Shaw, Riv and Dahl. So it's an example of dysfunctionality at the heart of your government. So a number of questions at Taoiseach. Do you agree with Minister O'Dowd on these specific questions? Do you accept that Irish Water, Éisce Éireann, isn't working? Will you scrap the bonuses? Will you acknowledge that many households simply cannot afford to pay your government's water tax? And will you abolish this water charge, as the Minister is indicating?
Thank you.
Well, I thought that you were coming in here to tell us why you didn't submit your budget proposition today. I thought that you were coming in here to explain to the nation why the Sinn Féin party suddenly decided that water charges for residential households should be scrapped. Because one thing you did forget with all of your information was that by so doing in the way you propose, it goes back onto the public pay bill at a cost of €850 million extra. So I'd like to know from you how you propose to raise this money, in addition to all the money extra, for the scrapping of your 800. So I know it's a very easy thing. I know it's a very easy thing. It's a very easy thing to say. It's very easy to knock on the doors and say we're opposed to water charges. This is the usual Sinn Féin stock. We're also opposed to property charges. But in respect of water, you better revise your budget submission because it's going to cost $850 million extra. So what are you going to do for USC, income tax, PRSI and so on? Now, no bonuses have been paid to anyone in Irish Water, and the Chief Executive will not be paid a bonus. Irish Water doesn't have a policy of pay increments and has a pay freeze until 2016. As I said to Deputy Martin, the regulator has instructed that they reduce their cost base by $170 million, or 8%, between here and 2016. I do not share Deputy O'Dowd's view about Irish Water. I have to admit that there were certainly teething problems here, both in respect of the perception of the cost spent on this and the breakdown of that detail, and the inability in many cases to communicate the message very clearly in the beginning. That's all changing. Government will continue to roll out proposals to make Irish Water a really important, fundamental state entity held in public ownership to deal with the inadequacy of the infrastructure we've had for water for very many years. Deputy Adams knows this. Do you want the people in this city or the greater region who are currently on a knife edge from day to day in respect of water supply and water facilities? When we had the virus at Ballymore Eustace, you saw what happened. Hundreds of thousands of people with an inadequate water supply having to turn off the taps at night because of that situation. Now you're saying you don't have to pay for anything. It's only a cost of $850 million. They'll fight it off the rich or something like that. So I'm disappointed that you didn't actually come in with your budget today, and I'm even further disappointed that you have no mention of the fact that there's a charge of $850 million involved in that. So no bonuses were paid, no bonus will be paid to the Chief Executive. There's a pay freeze here until 2016, and the regulator has said reduce your cost base by $170 million, which includes a substantial element of the pay involved here.
Thank you. Deputy Adams. Adams? Would you mind letting Deputy Adams ask?
I think it's a very, very important condition to have a sense of humour, Taoiseach, coming in to ask questions here, because Flann O'Brien could not have written the script that you articulate here from day to day. I don't think you get it at all. There are people out here who just cannot afford an additional tax on top of all the other taxes that you have imposed upon them. And look, you just can't come in and say you disagree with Teachta O'Dowd. You appointed him to the job. He's making these points. They are considered points. It wasn't an off-the-cuff interview. It was a scripted article. So I presume he considered what he was saying. And he made a series of criticisms of the way Uisce Éireann has been operated. But more importantly, he said that he raised these questions with you. So is this the way your government? Is this James O'Reilly again? Is this Minister Shotter again? Is this the way the government does its business? So I will put, if I may, the questions to you again. And I'm very mindful, by the way, that this was a Fianna proposition. But your government are going ahead with it. So, do you acknowledge that many, many households simply cannot afford to pay your water tax? Just a simple yes or no. Will you give struggling families, will you give hard-pressed citizens a break by abolishing the tax? And will you turn off this water tax for the sake of citizens? And I will ensure that you have an off-the-top-of-the-press copy of Sinn Féin's budget. And I would like to think, I would recommend it to you, I would commend it to you.
Thank you, Deputy.
Because what it has a word in it which is writ large through every single line.
Thank you.
And that word is equality, word which is alien to you and your backbenchers.
Taoiseach. Sorry, Deputy, would you please? Thank you.
Well, I point out to you, we're all the same across the country. People in rural Ireland have been paying water charges for years. Many people pay privately for pumps, for chemicals, for treatment for their own water supplies, and those on thousands of group water schemes have contributed every year for water. And they never ask a question because they know it's important. But you come along and you say, oh, you shouldn't have to pay for that. And you do that for particular political purposes, particularly because you've got a couple of by-elections. Now, what the government want to do here is to be fair and equitable and affordable. And the government, of course, recognise that any charge has to be an imposition on people. But this charge and this contribution is a necessary contribution as we set out to develop a proper water infrastructure for the country. And that's why the government have set policy directions for the regulator in terms of the average metered water charge, in terms of the household allowance, and in terms of the child allowance, in terms of the knowledge that people have particular medical ailments that require lots of water. And that's why the household benefit charge for disabled people, for carers, for people living alone, are also there with an extra 100 for those who live alone as pensioners. So the intention here is to have everybody be enabled to make a contribution that is fair and that is affordable and that is equitable. And of course, all of that means that so many hundreds of thousands of people will benefit as a consequence by having better water, by not having to live under boiled water notices, and that businesses will know that the water supply they have is not on a 98% knife edge all of the time, and that we can be a country that can continue to be attractive for investment, attractive for location of industry and for jobs all over the country, and that consumers, ordinary people, businesses and big industry can know it has a proper supply of high quality and high volume of water for its needs. That's why Irish Water is being set up. That's why it's an important entity. That's why the government support it, and that's why the government will continue to bring in proposals, including competencies on the new Ervia entity to run Irish Water as one of the largest infrastructure developmental projects since the foundation of the state.
Thank you. Deputy McWallace. Thank you.
Thank you, Concórla.